Sup? Welcome to the Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 17, and I am Adam Choit. To follow the show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, and I am at Adam Choit on Instagram as well if you want to follow me too. And of course, I have no affiliation with the band. This is not an official podcast or anything. I'm just a fan, and if you're listening to this, I'm guessing there's a good chance that you love Tedeschi Trucks Band too. So be sure to subscribe as well and give the show a positive review on iTunes. Doing those things is definitely helpful and appreciated. So, today's guest is Tedeschi Trucks Band fan Ted Auch. Originally from Connecticut, and after spending many years in Vermont, these days Ted and his family live in Cleveland, Ohio. We talk about how much music has always been a big part of his life, be it the Grateful Dead, Phish, Coltrane, or Zeppelin. But in 2018 in Akron, Ohio is where Ted first saw TTB live, and that night basically his life changed. Since then, he's been a hardcore fan, and we cover it all. His love for Derek, Susan, the band, and much, much more. Let's just get into it. Here's Ted Auch. So it's good to see you today, Ted Auch. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom here.
Thanks, Adam. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm already flubbing lines. I get nervous. Like right before we start, I get nervous for the first 8 seconds, and then after that, I can be calm. How are you holding up there during this super fun 2020 though?
It's pretty tough. We have as I mentioned before, a 6.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and the 6.5-year-old. We just found out he's going to be virtual for the first semester. So I think the biggest thing is work-life balance and like how to make sure that our kids are solid and, buffering them from all this stuff, but also keeping it real for them at the same time. So it's been crazy, but we're all going through it. So
I was just thinking about that because I'm like an adult in my late 30s, and just getting to this point in my life has been, it's been a journey and a challenge at its points. But being a young person, like growing up in this, how do you even explain to a young person what's going on? Because I don't even know exactly what's going on. And I find myself questioning things and challenging myself and being confused, but not, I don't know. It's complicated. And then I was thinking about people with kids and how hard that must, how hard that must be.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, there's no template for it, right? And so like, I think one thing, it's the two things. It's the George Floyd, response, and it's the COVID response, but it's also just I hate to bring it in, but the federal government's response to all this stuff is just, it's really hard to as a person who does science for a living, it's really hard when you see people that like avoid facts and like, don't give any validity to science. But as far as teaching it to our kids, what I've been telling my son, 6.5-year-old is, look, there's conversations that people in this country have to have with their kids by the time they're your age, if not earlier, that you'll never have with your dad. And I tell them what those conversations probably are like, roughly. And now you understand why we are where we are. And, this is not to smear all law enforcement, but there's some bad apples. And then as far as COVID is concerned, he's pretty tapped in. I mean, he sees it. He knows it. He knows what it is. He probably, because he has no filters, is probably better at understanding it than we do. But to him, the worst thing is just having to be 6 feet from his friends. So, yeah, no, it's a strange world socially for the kids, especially like to grow up in. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's who you want to protect their innocence, but you also want to be honest, but you're also trying to figure things out for yourself. But what about life before then? What about growing up? And did you say you grew up in the Ohio area? I grew up in Connecticut.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. And then I lived there until I was about 18 or 19, and then went on to Ohio Wesleyan for a year to go to college, and that didn't go so well. And then I went to the University of Vermont starting in 97, and I lived in Burlington for the better part of 13 years. And that's where one of the places I fell in love with my first quote unquote jam band, which is Phish, and all of the bands that used to come into Burlington by way of that, Moe, Medeski, Martin Wood, Soul Live, all this stuff. And then I lived in Virginia. I did a master's degree at Virginia Tech looking at coal mines and the impact of coal mining on Appalachia for a couple of years. Moved back to Burlington, got my PhD there in environmental science, and then we moved here to Cleveland, and we've been here ever since. And yeah, but music has always been a huge part of my life. I mean, my my dad used to have me listen to a lot. I listened to a lot of jazz. So he started me on Pat Metheny and the Kingston Trio and CC, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and all that stuff. But it kind of branched out from there. But music has always been big. And in the recent years, I've picked up guitar quite a bit. And my kids are pretty musically, quote unquote, inclined. But music has always been a big part. And, kind of to the point of this podcast, Tedeschi Trucks has been the biggest part, other than John Coltrane, of that music listening exercise that we've been going through for the last couple of years. So.
Wow, I feel like we just covered a lot, because you even we're going to answer, to some degree, my next question was to kind of go back earlier, like what kind of music were you listening to?
Yeah.
When you were really young, even elementary school age, like that you said your dad was playing around the house with a lot of Crosby, Stills and Nash, and then a lot of listening to music. Was he a musician too?
No, he wasn't. Neither of my parents were musicians, but they listened to all that kind of music. But the biggest thing that I listened to pretty early on, I would say by the time I was 13, was all my neighbors, all my friends' older brothers and sisters were huge Grateful Dead fans. So the Madison Square Garden runs back at, you're a New Yorker, so the Grateful Dead runs. I went to my first show when I was 13 and loved the Grateful Dead and loved Jerry and really, really dug that quite a bit. But in 94 and 95, I kind of fell out of love with that. It just wasn't fun. I wasn't enjoying the music much and was searching for other music and listened to I've always listened to a lot of Frank Zappa, a lot of Led Zeppelin, and as I said, a lot of Miles, a lot of Coltrane, a little bit of bluegrass, but yeah, so.
Yeah, an eclectic mix of stuff, but it's interesting how you say you can almost like fall out of love, or is it more like you get like burned out almost on the music, listening to certain bands because it's so much, or you need a break, or what is it? Because I feel like for me, I always like come back to like almost every album song that I ever loved from like age like 4 or 5 years old to now. Like maybe I don't listen to like the Monkees every day, but I still like all those Monkees songs.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I listened to the Grateful Dead, not near, the old adage of like the worst part about Grateful Dead fans is all they listen to is the Grateful Dead. Well, I was one of those guys for a long time. I guess it's not fall out of love. I just got disappointed with and this is another thing circling back to BT Tedeschi Trucks Band, is like, I got disappointed once it got to Giant Stadium and RFK and all these huge venues.
Right.
The sound quality, the connection, the connectivity, the camaraderie, and the drugs just got super, super crazy. I just saw people going in directions. Same thing I saw with Fish in 2003 and 2002. Same thing. Like, it just got out of control. And
it's not about the music. It's
right.
not about the music anymore. It becomes
right. But I've circled back to the Dead. I mean, I still love 1974 to 1988. I mean, I love that era. Pulse Pigpen all the way up to Brent Midland's demise. That whole thing, I could listen to that all day. And I still like Dead and Company. I loved what John Mayer's done with them. So
yeah. So I mean, you come back, but certain, I could see how that could be your path musically, but you never played any instruments, you said, growing up, or sang or anything like that.
Played a little piano, and I always dabble with a little bit of guitar, but I've started to take guitar pretty seriously in the last bunch of years, mostly just acoustic. I have an Alvarez and I play a lot and my kids love it. And so that's been part of it. But this whole COVID thing has been like, I went into this COVID thing saying to myself, you need to become as proficient at this thing as you can by the time this is all over, if it ever ends. So I've been kind of digging deep into guitar and prompted mostly by the influences of, Tedeschi Trucks and the stuff they listen to, and, Peter Rowan and Tony Rice and all that stuff. So it's been fantastic. And that the joy of listening to music came back to me in full force. And, when I saw them the first time. So
have you been singing? Do you sing? Do your kids
No, you
sing?
don't. No, that does not happen. That does.
Do the kids sing?
What's that? I can't sing. No.
Do the kids sing?
Oh yeah, my kids have great voices. And my son, my 6.5-year-old, is making up songs all the time. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of find a groove. He'll sing about something that he thought about today, and usually it has something to do with squirrels and zip lines and construction sites or something like that. But
it sounds like a Dylan song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And it's like Dylan, because it goes on forever and ever. It's just like we'll be playing for 8 minutes and he will have a lyric the whole way through.
I mean this all in a good way, in a
Yeah.
positive way.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah,
we're
yeah,
both
absolutely.
laughing, it's funny, but it's a good thing.
Yep. Yep.
The poet and a songwriter.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you're playing and they're jamming and you guys are jamming. Is that one of the most fun things for you as a
Yeah.
father?
Oh yeah, for sure. Other than the like reading of, like we're really into books. My 6.5-year-old is really into Legos. So that he's more of an engineering mind. So he's really like asked like questions about how things work. But one thing he likes to do is to kind of take, again, what he's learned in the day and apply it to songs. And he hasn't been doing that in the last couple of months, but he still loves to play. And the 2.5-year-old takes his big his African drum, and he beats the heck out of it. So I know what Derek feels like playing with two drummers in the back and trying to be above that, because he plays it hard. So
That's cool.
yeah.
And what about like your music? Where did you say you were sort of after like listening to a lot of the Dead into your like early mid-teens? What were you kind of getting into then?
After the Dead.
Yeah, I think was that like maybe
Yeah.
early teens,
Yeah,
mid-teens, high
yeah,
school
yeah.
or something.
I mean, a lot of Fish, a lot of Medeski, Martin and Wood, but basically, a lot of Pat Metheny, a lot of the jazz fusion stuff. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Frank Zappa. Once again, he was always kind of a through line for me. Um, let's see, but if I were to have to put my finger on it, I mean the great names: Lester Young, Charlie Parker, Monk, all that stuff. I mean,
You
jazz was
like
like,
jazz. You like jazz a lot, and you like stuff like Frank Zappa. I'm not like super duper familiar with Frank Zappa's catalog, but
right.
like that type of music has a lot of like sudden changes and prog rock style things and jazz and jazzy things going on. So that's kind of like what you're into, is like sort of those sort of all over the place, like how you describe that sound. I'll let you describe
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like one thing I really love about these people, and kind of getting back to like Bob Dylan, and I don't know, I haven't been listening to TTB long enough to say it about them, but is like some of the people I mentioned, specifically Coltrane, like how they evolved over time and challenged themselves, and then challenged their listeners. Like Love Supreme is like, you put me on an island and just give me that, and give me Jack Johnson or In a Silent Way by Miles Davis, and I'll be good. But like basically the way that these jazz musicians constantly challenge themselves, their fellow players and their audience to like think outside the box. I love that about jazz players. I love that they don't sit still. They just kept going forward, trying new things. Even if they fell on their face, they tried it anyway. And
Yeah,
yeah. So
that's why I'm very pro horn solos in TTB.
yes,
At least each horn getting one chance to go crazy every show
I
seems necessary.
I was
And
gonna get a
just
T-shirt. I was gonna get a T-shirt that said "More Ephraim solos."
yeah, MOAR, of course,
Yeah,
as you
right.
spell it. Yeah,
Yep.
no,
Yeah.
that would be quite something.
Yeah.
Tell me more about, I guess, your early Fish
Yeah.
runs or experiences going to those shows and getting into Fish.
Yeah. So when I first started seeing them, they were opening for Blues Traveler and Spin Doctors. I don't
That's
know
a
if you've
very
heard.
'90s sentence you just said.
That's right. That's right. And I, as far as they were concerned, the first thing that drew me into them was, I was never a cool kid, and I felt like I was watching this band on stage that weren't the cool kids, and they were killing it. And it was, the other thing about them was like it was an inside joke, especially the whole Gamehenge. I don't know about your audience, but like, the man who stepped into yesterday, all of Trey's like stuff that he was working on. I just felt like, you know, people can make fun of the lyrics all they want, but the musicianship was unbelievable. It was out of this world. And I was totally digging that. And I was into them like nobody's business from, 92 hardcore to Big Cypress in 2000. And with 94, 5, 6, and 7 being my sweet spots, and 97 being probably my favorite. concert tour of all time of any band.
It's like relationships. It's like you have
Yeah,
relationships with these
yeah,
bands in some ways.
yeah,
It's like a commitment. It's a loyalty. It takes an effort, but there's also a joy that goes along with it.
yeah. Yeah, and they never, kind of again like TTB, they never. I mean, they had bad nights, but they never shorted you, man. Like they never, they always respected the audience and what the audience has meant to them, and I think they loved, the inside jokes and that kind of thing, and I think the Big Cypress when they did that in Florida, and I went down with my friend, and we traveled all night and all day, and seeing them for 7 or 8 hours, finish off New Year's when Y2K was whatever it was just like I walked away from there being like, that I don't know how they go on from that. And I would imagine in reading about Fish since then, they thought that too. They were like, this could be, the pinnacle of what we do, what we can do. I think they've gone on to prove otherwise, but 2000 to 2004 was probably pretty sparse for a variety of reasons. But I think they've come back pretty strong, and that's why like the whole Derek Trucks thing at Lock-In to me was like, I mean, that was I listen to that all the time now.
Yeah, when it first came out, I was listening to it nonstop for probably 6 months straight, at least, like all the different songs in different orders, and every day. And
Yeah,
that's going to be a show that will be like, because I'll probably do a solo show at some point that's like top 10 Tedeschi moments since the band's, whatever. I'll figure out some way to make some kind of list. Lists are good.
yeah.
And that would be definitely a moment that will probably appear on, just about any list if it's a special moment with,
Oh yeah, I
humming
mean,
TTB, that show,
yeah. I mean the
that set.
when the set, yeah. I mean when Derek played with them, I mean the Camel Walk. I mean,
Yeah, that
any
set as well. Derek with Trey's band.
that is unbelievable. Like the Camel Walk, you can just see it on Trey's face. He's like, yeah, this was necessary to have him. I mean, his second solo, like 2 minutes into Camel Walk, he enters in with that scorcher. It's just like, yeah, no one else does that, man.
Yeah, it sounds easy, and it makes sense. It's when I hear the Derek slapping guitar, it's like, oh yeah, why didn't I? It just that
Yeah,
sounds awesome. Why didn't I? Yeah, I think of that.
yeah, right.
Why didn't anyone else? If ever, everyone could do it. If it was so easy, everyone could do it. Is what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask you what other bands were you getting into? I guess beyond Fish in your life.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like Led Zeppelin's always been I've been a big fan. Early Genesis, Brian Eno, um, what am I trying to think of? Sonic Youth. Um, I listen to a lot of some classical, a little bit, but I've always listened to blue, like Bela Fleck. I love Bela Fleck solo and with the Flecktones. Tony Rice, Grisman. I love Garcia Band. I look at Garcia Band as like a separate thing from the Grateful Dead, and so like I've always loved that. I love what he did with Merle Saunders and the like. And obviously, I just finished the biography of Robbie Robertson, so like the band has always been a huge. I think that's when they were on, they were perfection. I think so.
You just
Those are the
love
kind.
music. You just love music. Is music like your primary hobby? Would you say? Is it your only? Not. I don't mean that in a negative way, but
Yeah.
is it like your work life and then or you got your family and then you got your work life then music? Is that kind of like what
Yeah. I mean,
for you?
I think with this whole COVID thing, what I found is like I listen to more music, more different kinds of music, and this is, I think, saying something for me, like to match my moods exactly as I can now. Like
That's kind of what I've been doing, and I haven't even known that that's what I've been doing.
right, and like I feel like, and TTB's played a huge part of that. Although to be fair, like they don't dominate the music every day the way they did before this, because I'm not always into that. But like a lot of
Yeah.
times I'm into that. But yeah, it's always been big. It's always been a big thing. And like with kind of with this band, like when we saw them in Akron, when I first saw what I call my first real show with them in 18 in Akron, it was like right after our son, our 2.5-year-old son now was on a feeding tube for the first 3 months of his life.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty trying time. And my father-in-law was here with us for that. And he helped us out quite a bit during that very stressful time. And we didn't even know how stressful it was. And then fast forward 5 months later, he and I will go to see them in Akron. And we both walked out of there. He's a huge music fan. I mean, way more than me. And we were just like, we weren't in tears, but we were just like, we needed this, like we needed this band. We needed Susan. We needed all of it, and they delivered, and it was still with Oteil, but it was just like, there's still music out there that can move you almost to tears or to tears.
Yeah.
And the virtuosity of the band at the same time, unbelievable.
Yeah, no, just to hear you say the way, like, we needed this, that's also how I think I feel for sure when leaving shows, or even sometimes when just listening to the music,
Yeah.
In my life. Where were
Yeah.
you sitting for that show?
Say again.
Where were you sitting at that Akron show?
Oh, we were in the way top. We were in like the 10th to the last row. I mean, I was a throwaway show for me. I mean, again, this was a shot in the dark. We're like, yeah, that's a great theater. My friend who lives down in Akron, he's like, that's a beautiful venue. You should go to it. And my brother-in-law, who I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast or before, who's a huge Government Mule fan, has always been pushing me towards Derek. And he's like, boy, if you think Grace Potter knows what she's doing, wait till you see Susan Tedeschi. So I was like, well, let's go see him, So we were in the top row, it was kind of like the blue seats in the Madison Square Garden, people smoking and just having a good old time. But it was like whipping post, and, I don't even know what to say. It just was an unbelievable set list. And when she did her lyrics from Whipping Post, I just was like, I threw my hands up. I was like, I surrender to this one.
Yeah, it's almost like you lose sense of space and time or something. You feel like there's a timeless quality to like
Yep.
what that band is doing, what Tedeschi Trucks band is doing, especially when they play a song like Whipping Post. You can almost hear like, I don't know, like do you remember it? Was it like an echoey kind of like vocal going through the venue? Because I could kind of hear it, in my head a little bit.
Yeah. It was, and I don't know if it was that show, but one of the first shows I saw, and they also did Volunteered Slavery by Rosan Roland Kirk, which is like, I mean, again, this is like, I did not dig deep into them before they were like on me, like a wave. I wasn't like looking into their background. When I heard them do that song, I was like, what? Like, who does this song? Like, what? This is unbelievable. I can't believe that they would even think to do this. And then with all of the voices on the stage, and with, obviously with Derek's guitar, it was like, some of the covers they've done, kind of like I was listening to one of your other podcasts. I mean, the covers that they do are just fantastic, and Whipping Post obviously being one of them. But I also think of Derek in many ways. Like, I feel like he is like a full manifestation of what Duane would have been at this point. Like, he's exploring the sitar, he's exploring all this other stuff, and he is what Duane would have been. But that's not to say that he's a copy. He's just like this fully formed.
That's an interesting way to think of it as that, because everyone's always like comparing them, but you don't really hear people say, oh, he's a continuation of. Or I guess Greg Allman did say that, he does seem like maybe reincarnated, but what you're saying is almost like a continuation of, at least in the guitar sense, in the musical sense. I'm talking spiritually as well.
Right, yeah. I mean, because I don't know. I mean, who knows from that? Like, who knows where Duane would have gone with his life? I mean, who knows if he was stuck in the like Southern rock? I have no idea. But like, I've read all the books, including Alan Paul's book that you had on. I've read all the books. I've read Skydog. I've read all that stuff. And I don't know, but maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have. But like, all I know is I hear that the Oakland show, the Fox Theater show, and like what he does there, and like the microtonal stuff. It's just like, you have to believe that this is like the next stage. And, also kind of, it's really cool. What I love about the band is to see the work-life balance, to see them like, they all seem to really love their families, Gabe Dixon, all these folks. And that's pretty awesome to see that they're like managing that rather than just falling down the abyss of being rock stars,
Yeah, that's what Derek and Susan, I'm sure, and especially Derek, has talked about and been asked about, like, he's seen a lot of tragedy and heard a lot of stories, and seeing what happens to Jimi Hendrix and all these guys who were able to achieve the pinnacle of success as an artist, so to speak, but not be able to balance it with being an adult, being a man, being, even an upstanding person, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah.
And that's something that he's conscious of, it seems like, in the band and the members of the band and everyone around him.
Yeah. Yeah. They have such a, I mean, like, and I love, you love the new, like, I love Brandon on bass. Like, I love Tim. I love Alicia. Like, they're just all, and like, to think about all that talent, like, they all talk about, Susan and Derek talk about, like, how all these people could form their own band, and they're not shitting you. Like, it's true. Like, all these people could do that. Like,
that's like a fear of mine.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's like, I remember when I saw them in Chicago last year, this last February, and it was the second night, and Susan was having real bad stuff with her cough or whatever, and it was a really beautiful moment. She's like apologizing profusely to the audience. The audience is like, "Oh, forget it," and then, like, she kind of looked at Derek and, like, was apologizing to him, and he's like, "Well, you can still play guitar, right?" And she's like, and she, like, turned right on cue, and she's like, "Yeah, I can still do this," and she wails on her Les Paul and just ripped that up. And then, like, the end of the show, I was sitting with these folks that had never gone to a show before, and I was like, well, she hasn't sung yet, but wait till Alicia sings. And sure enough, I think it was an encore. I don't know. Maybe it was the last song. Alicia steps up, and it's just like, oh my God, they all do it.
Yeah, there's so much talent in the band. This wasn't the first Akron show you went to. This was a different show.
No. This is like my second to last show. This was, I actually pulled it up for you.
Some more recent one.
Yeah, it was January 25th, 2020, Chicago Theater. It was yeah, so that was that. And my most recent show was Pittsburgh. Like, it was like their sixth to last show of the year. I saw them. I think it was, when was that? That was February 19th of 2020. I saw them right before this whole thing went down.
Yeah, that is like another age ago. Like, I don't know, that everyone always I've seen a lot of. I'm not original with that joke, of course. It's not even a joke. It's just like amazing how January and February of 2020 seem like 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
3 years
another
ago.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, another time period.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah. No, they're but they didn't. I love one thing I love about them too is, like, they turned me on to Blackberry Smoke, which is like a band I had never even thought about. And I saw them last summer in Detroit, them with the Wheels of Soul thing, and they were killer, man. Like, I love that band.
Yeah, you can definitely discover new music through TTB, through their covers or through the opening acts, and just, like, I don't know, whatever, even beyond just like blues and soul and Americana or swamp music, whatever you want to, rock and roll, classic rock, whatever you want to call it, Tedeschi Trucks and what they do.
Yeah.
You can find music out there, because especially with the internet and all that. Like, there's like, blues is not dead. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, blues music, I don't think it's dead. Like, just because a lot of the originators, are not around. I don't think the music is dead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been, ever since I first heard them, I can't. I mean, people that know me know it's like an inside joke, not an inside joke, but it's a joke how, like, from November 2018 to this date, like, if anyone asks or we ever talk about new music, anyone that I've actually built up some credibility with as far as picking bands is concerned, I always say to them, just give me one band, this band, just try them. I've never had anyone walk away being like, I don't want to listen to them anymore. It's always like, oh, give me more. And, Spotify's really good for that, because that Everybody's Talking is a great show, or a great compilation, whatever it is. But yeah, no, they're unbelievable. So
Yeah, no, the only concern is that they'll become too popular and have too many fans. Tickets will be too hard to get, too expensive, and that's the only concern. But actually, that's not really the concern right now. Obviously, the concern is just like people getting healthy, being healthy, and society getting more, getting back to some kind of normalcy. Hopefully, and I guess 2021 is
Yeah,
the more realistic thing for any sort of live music.
yeah. I mean, I want to see them at Red Rocks so bad.
I want to see him anywhere.
Yeah,
So bad anytime, I guess.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They, I was telling you offline, like I had like 5 shows within 3 hours of me this year, and my brother-in-law and I are already planning to do Savannah, West Palm, I think it's Fort Myers and whatever next year that they've rescheduled if that goes down and Florida
So you
calms
had you
down.
had 5 shows planned that were all canceled this year.
Yeah, yeah, Youngstown, Niagara Falls, Detroit, Huber Heights, Dayton, um, and I'm missing one, but yeah, would have been awesome.
Should I
And I was,
find out? I was going to say, should I find out if they had any West Coast shows planned so I could know whether I could feel even worse, or
yeah, right,
if they had no shows planned, I'm like, whatever. Uh,
yeah.
fine.
But it was going to be my 6-year-old's first show, and my kids love them. They both have Derek and Susan T-shirts, and I actually have one too. We were given we were given it by my wife, so it's an inside joke when the three of us wear those shirts. But they love her, and they love him, and so I was super excited to bring them. But they'll be there. We'll go.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, next year soon.
Yeah,
That's going to be awesome. That's something definitely to look forward to. That's like the meaning of life, essentially. I think is to look forward to things, or
yeah,
one of the meetings. Why does it
yeah,
have to be one meeting? We'll
yeah.
figure out the rest some other time. I think that Dwayne Allman would be like going in different directions with music, even if he continued to play with the Allman Brothers or
Hmm.
whatever, because he always played with and recorded with a lot of different artists. So why not go in different directions musically, even wildly, or into Middle Eastern, Indian kind of music, and all
Yeah,
the stuff that Derek is, and the jazz stuff, especially that Derek is into.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and this says nothing of like the whole Derek Trucks band stuff, like what is it? Song lines and some of the videos and stuff like that. Like his stuff solo is unbelievable. And like, she, I mean, the drummers, like, I mean, those guys are unbelievable. The three horns and Mike Madison on, like just like some of his songwriting and like, it's just like such an all-star crew. And like, I just hope they stay in smallish venues, like I saw them, I told you in Pittsburgh in February, and that was like a college. I think it was Robert Morris. I don't remember in Moon Township outside of Pittsburgh, and that was like a college basketball arena, and even that felt a little sterile. But I mean, it was a killer show. It had nothing to do with them. It was more just how much cement there was. You know what I mean? So, um,
Yeah, it's not the same charm of a theater that they tend to play in, and
right,
seems like
right,
to play and prefer to play in.
yeah, yeah. No, but yeah, but I mean, it's just such an amazing combination of a band. I mean, she's world class, but she's also, I heard your podcast on her guitar playing. She's world class when she gets that Les Paul in her hands too. And like, obviously, him with the slide or without the slide. I actually really dig like when they do other songs that when he tries those other guitars, like,
Yeah,
yeah, I love when he brings that stuff out too. And, um, you know,
Dwayne's guitar sometimes Dwayne's gold top
yeah, yeah,
Les Paul.
yeah, yeah. No, we need them to come back. I really miss those TTB. Was it Tuesdays or Thursdays? Thursdays.
I think that's still happening or might still happening. I'm sure
Okay.
they're going to do something. I don't know. I imagine if they can't tour, that they'll have to put out some kind of content, even if it's past shows.
Yeah.
What do you have a like preferred venue? I mean, you did mention you'd like to see them in Red Rocks and small venues,
Yeah.
smallish venues preferred. But do you have like a dream scenario or like a preferred venue or like a home field for you or in the Cleveland area? Like, what's your favorite type of place?
Well, I mean, selfishly, we have this great theater network,
Backyard.
Ohio Playhouse, I forget the names of all the Playhouse Theater, downtown Cleveland. I'd love to see them in one of those. I know Bonamassa played there before COVID hit, or actually as it was hitting, I think. But the places that I've seen them, I mean, I told you, I saw them in San Antonio at this amazing theater there that was beautiful. But for my money, Chicago theater is where it's at. Like, it's just, even though I've seen them at the Beacon, I mean, the Beacon's wonderful, but the Beacon's not, I don't know, it's not, Chicago theater has a class to it that just, you can't beat. and
A class
the
to it,
crowd,
interesting.
yeah, and the crowd goes nuts, because the crowd knows they're going to be there one weekend, leave, and then come back the next weekend. So people do settle in for that stuff. And the last two nights that I saw last year, or this past year, those last two shows were the best that I've ever seen them play. And Gabe was great, and Brandon was like totally incorporated and just killing it on his bass solos and that. But yeah, for my money, it's the Chicago theater. But yeah, I mean, Red Rocks would be amazing, and obviously the Ryman. I'd love to see him at Ryman, and honestly, I'd love to see him in Jacksonville. Like, I don't know anything about those venues in Jacksonville, but I'd love to see them in their home, on their home field.
Yeah, I can kind of get a sense, like, just from, following the band a long time and as they tour the country and listening to shows and reading about them, which venues are kind of special and why, and which ones they stay at for longer, and which ones are kind of historic places for one reason or another. So, and if they go back to these places, these are, definitely places I want to get back to myself. I was joking about them playing in your backyard, or even like, I feel like even in a local bar would be awesome to like see the band on a stage that just is big enough to fit them and for them to be just barely comfortable, I guess. Because I guess they would, a 12-person band is never going to be comfortable at a bar show, but like to see them in a smaller venue that's not like a theater, that's more like a bar or a lounge or something like that would be really cool, I think.
Oh yeah. That would be great. I mean, I love that little what is it, the little NPR little desk concert that they did, where they're all crammed in there. That was what you're talking about. That's as crammed in as you can be for a big band.
That might be too small. That might be a little too small. Have you met the band? Have you met and interacted at all?
Nope, never met them. Just, I've just seen them from afar, but I mean, I just love their demeanor. I love their humility. I love one of my favorite things about about them and about Susan specifically is like when she gets on her high horse, and I mean this as a compliment, when she gets on her high horse and lectures people about like how they need to treat people and all that stuff, like, you got to love one another. And like when she does that whole thing, it's just like, it again, it's like a near tear moment. It's just like, I love hearing her. She just seems like such a decent human being, and she's just telling all of us, especially at this time. Obviously, and I don't know this because I haven't been following them that long. I'm assuming that some of this came out by way of 2016. I don't know that, but I do feel like she comes out and she says, look, whenever events happen where people aren't treating each other kindly, she just comes out and she's like, look, it's not how you do it, man. You got to treat each other better. And when she does that, it's just like, that's why I love having my kids listen to them. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that she and the band definitely have their political views, and they don't really hide them that much per se. But I feel like the messages that they deliver and that she delivers in the particular, rants or whatever that you're referring to on stage during some songs, like, are not really partisan. That they're all kind of like all just positive things, reminders for human beings to like treat each other well and not hurt one another, and that's really, it's the message is still positive, whether you agree with her personal political views or not, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, as far as the covers podcast you did, The one thing I would love to hear them do is "Please Come Home" by Greg Allman from Idlewild South.
Right.
That's a oh my God, if they ever did that. I don't know who would sing that, maybe Gabe, I don't know, but I love that song. Greg's voice on that is unbelievable. It'd be great to see them do something like that.
Are you sure that they've never done it? Because I
No,
thought that there's been like you've done the research on
no,
all
no,
the
I'm not
archives
sure.
and all.
I'm not.
Oh,
No, I'm not sure. It just would be a beautiful tune if they have done it.
yeah.
Haven't. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, imagine the singers, the vocalists trading verses, and then kind of figure out, you were arranging the song for them. I mean, that's definitely must be a fun process, like just creating music. Like they're all like super talented, but just the process of creating music itself
yeah.
must be fun for them because there's so many choices that they can make. Like there's already infinite choices you can make if you're like a 3-person band. But if you're a 12-person band, that's I'm not a mathematician, but that's a lot more choices and options,
Yeah.
which I guess can be a challenge in itself, but a
Yeah.
fun challenge, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And they do. The one of my maybe my favorite is it. Do they do that when they do Soul Sacrifice when they do the Santana stuff? Like I just like
That's
totally.
awesome.
Yeah. I mean like that. That just blows me away when he goes back and forth when it's just him and the drummers. Just like it's phenomenal. It just blows you
Is
away.
it a drum duet when it's two drummers? It's not a drum solo; it's a drum duet. You would call it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean it's I don't know what they call it. I mean it feels like it's Soul Sacrifice from the Woodstock stuff. It might be
Right.
yeah, but I love that stuff. I love everybody's talking. I love that rearrangement of that song. And but yeah, I mean they always seem to pick out the covers that I was listening to as I said I was listening to your podcast and they choose like the not the famous covers. That's why I feel like Traffic and I would, as I said, I'd love to see them do something from Zappa. Maybe that's not a possibility, but
They pick great songs and songs that are probably somewhat relatively known by music people or even beyond that, but they don't always choose the iconic song. Like
yeah,
only maybe special occasions.
yeah, yeah. No,
We're gonna play Billie Jean and Layla at next show.
Billie Jean. Yeah, yeah. I heard you talking about Michael Jackson. I think like yeah, that would be amazing. What about like
Working
a
day and
Bruce?
night.
Yeah, Dan, or like a Jackson 5. Can you feel it or whatever that song is?
Susan is a fan of Bruce Springsteen. I did read.
Oh yeah.
I'm learning more because I'm looking at articles.
Yeah, yeah, that's I mean, I've always felt like and I love when they do when they dip into the Joe Cocker stuff, Space Captain and all that stuff. It's just and their own catalog is fantastic as well. Um I still love I think Signs I don't know what number Signs is on their albums, but I'll put that up against any of the ones they've done.
They've done
Oh,
four,
okay.
four studio
Yeah.
albums. Yeah, no, Signs is awesome. The first time I heard Signs, I'm definitely impacted like by all the songs. First time hearing them, like that's that's how impactful and how awesome I think that album is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean the whole Kofi leaving the world thing that was pretty heavy. I remember just being like, "What are they going to do?" But I heard your interview with Kerry Frank too, and that was awesome. I loved him when he was playing with him. I mean,
Yeah,
he did such a great job.
I feel like I'm not too much of a fanboy, but it's almost like awkward to some degree being this much of a fanboy because I'm not really like this outwardly this way about everything in life all the all the time, but like that's
Right.
the point of this podcast is for fans like ourselves to talk TTB and talk why we love the band and why we love the music and just have conversations about these things
No, it's great.
where they
I
go.
love what you've done. I mean, it's fantastic, and I love all the people you had. I was listening to Alan Paul's interview you did with him.
I appreciate all the support for sure and listening to the shows. I really it means a lot, like for sure.
No, it's good. I mean, I don't know how it came across my radar, but yeah, I mean, I love it, and I mean, it's. I hope you get some of the folks in the band. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear Brandon on or Kebby or some. I follow Kebby and Brandon on Instagram. They're fantastic on Instagram. So
Yeah, I follow them as well. I think that's kind of the long term, the long term, short term goal. It's funny because I'm trying to balance between shooting for the stars and also like not like you know rushing into anything. I guess at the same time and being presumptuous and kind of still establishing myself. I guess to some degree. I feel like.
yeah. Well, they you know, another shout out to the band is I work at a small environmental nonprofit, and we you know, it was, I we had reached out to, or I reached out to the band's management and said, you know, would you guys ever consider doing like a benefit concert for those of us in the environmental space and for those that are feeling kind of demoralized by the last couple of years, and you know, all proceeds go into a charity of choice and that kind of thing. And I never expected to hear from them, and their management's like, yeah, hell yeah, we'll do it. I mean, this is in February or whatever, so it was like, this is before, as you said, like 5 years ago. And I haven't obviously followed up because they have bigger fish to fry. But the fact that they contacted us and they're like, "Yeah, we'd love to do it. We just have to find a space and that kind of thing." I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, that's so solid."
A benefit. Wait, so the band management and you connected with them, and
Yeah, I mean, I
they
contacted
were
them.
interested. They were interested in doing a benefit concert for your organization in Ohio at a small private type benefit type show.
Well, we were thinking about doing it like on a farm or something like that, kind of like
Right.
a farm to table meal, and like like have a bunch of environmental nonprofits in the region invited, and their families, and then doing something where we you know like probably get like a grant or something like that to fund all of their costs and get them in. And they're I mean, we hadn't worked out every detail, but that was kind of the gist of it. And
Right.
they contacted us and they're like, yeah, we'll do it. We just got to figure out the details of how we would do this and who would we work with, because you guys don't know the first thing about planning a concert, and that was true. So we'll revisit this at some point, but just the fact that they reached out to us at all and actually
Yeah.
indicated an interest in doing it was
That's
unbelievable.
great. That's awesome. Are you supposed to be telling me about this? No, I'm sure it's fine.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. So
Yeah. When do you? I don't know. I mean, when do you? I mean, maybe like follow. I guess when do you follow up?
yeah, I mean, I give them space. I mean, I just heard Derek on with Eric Krasno on his podcast. He was talking about how they have
I
24. Did
Yeah, I
you hear
listened
it?
to that. Yeah, but what were
Yeah,
you
he
gonna
was
say
talking about
about it?
yeah, he was talking about how he has 24 people that they're employing. So like, I'm sure this is a super scary time for them and for the people they employ. So the last thing they need to do is hear from us. But maybe
Right.
if they, yeah,
Yeah, especially since it would involve like creating a venue or something, a new thing that hasn't been done. Like the
right,
band probably wants to do things that are more certainties, and
exactly,
at this
exactly,
point, well,
yeah,
that stinks.
yeah. Cool.
Who can we
Cool.
get? Who's in the Ohio area?
Joe Walsh.
You'll get Joe Walsh, and then you'll hear from the management, and then they'll be like, "What happened? I thought you were going to ask us to do the show. You asked Joe Walsh, and you don't even follow up with
Yeah, like a
TTB."
scorned lover.
Yeah, yeah. That helps though, having someone in the area. If you were based out of the southeast, if you were in the Jacksonville area,
Oh
that
man.
you'd have a lot more going for you as far as
Yeah,
trying to get something off the ground with that.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. But I mean, I can say I've seen them in so many different geographies. I've seen some in San Antonio and everywhere, in the last bunch of months, and everywhere people they just flock to them. They love them. I mean, I was stunned at how many people showed up in San Antonio and were like just loving what they were doing. But uh, and that was when they brought out Willie Nelson's guitar player. I forget his name now, but he came out for a couple songs. It was awesome. So
So you just kind of recently discovered TTB and have been to a whole bunch of shows in a bunch of different cities
yeah,
within the last few years. just
Yep.
because you're just so into them and you're able to make that happen. Basically.
Well, I mean, the San Antonio one was, I was down there for work. I was in Corpus Christi, Texas, and it was a coincidence. And then, some of these others are, we go to see them.
They're bunched together in this. Geographically, the shows are more bunched together in the Northeast and in that region of the country. I always forget that in Southern California, it's like, oh, where should I drive out to Red Rocks or Phoenix or something like that from LA? Like if I want to go to another city or even up to the Bay Area, those are voyages. I guess the Bay Area is not too far, but
yeah, that would be a cool. I mean, I had on my bucket list, not on my bucket list, but I was going to see them at Detroit's Fox Theater, where all the legends have played from Motown and the like. This summer, I was super excited to do that. You talk about bucket list venues. I don't know if I put that on there, but just the aura around that venue, like who's played there, I know they would feel that and they would express that in their music, and that would have been amazing. So
yeah, I want to follow the band on the road and do the podcast, like doing that. Not even like, I'm not talking about like on the bus. I'm talking about like me in my car or whatever, whatever. I'm staying somewhere else, but this, just when I could, report on what's going on in the city, oh, it rained all day, but, I saw the band doing blah, 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 blah. And I just met up with some people. We talked about the show, I don't know, just like a very, inside TTB, I guess, baseball, TTB fandom, baseball.
Oh, you'd have tons of people listening to that one, On the Road with TTB.
Well, honestly, that was the thought, like in creating this podcast originally, is that a big part of it, or a part of it would be like getting recaps, not necessarily reviews, because everything is awesome according to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, most fans leave shows pretty satisfied as well, but getting recaps and insight from people who went to recent shows, that was definitely something that I thought would be a big part of it. Like, post online, oh, who's going to the show, who wants to talk about, the Beacon, who wants to talk about going to the Ryman, whatever. But like, it's that hasn't been a possibility at the moment. So
yeah, well,
someday.
That would be so fantastic. I mean, like they don't. Yeah, they didn't. I mean, what I love is, as I said, I mean, the best thing about TTB is, in addition to their musicianship and their voices, is their humility. Like, it's just like it's a band that you can be proud of, like being a fan of. I mean, that's a super cheesy thing to say, but it's true. Like, some bands you're like, just like some athletes, some sports teams, you're a fan, but you kind of gotta look the other way when they do stuff that ain't so good. And I don't anticipate that ever happening with this band. I mean, they're just, just solid people top to bottom. So that's nice to know as well.
Yeah, our fear is not lawlessness or indiscretions. Our fear is solo careers.
Yes.
That's the fear. Because although I love Derek, Susan, the music they put out, and everyone else in the band, and their the music they put out and their musicianship, I'm, I suppose first and foremost of Tedeschi Trucks band fan. So I definitely want to see the band continue, and it's not just because I have a podcast about them. It's because I, like you said earlier, need the music, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we need it. I mean, I mean, we need music in general, but like we need. It's funny because like my first show in Akron, my neighbor down the street, I'm just thinking about the story. He went to see Jim. Oh man, what's his name? The lead singer of My Morning Jacket, Jim. I forget his last name, but he went to see his solo acoustic show or whatever that same night in Cleveland, and I guess it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and he's like, still to this day, he's so upset that he missed the show because he saw how much that show moved me, and he's like, oh man, I wanted to walk out of that other show so quick. I can't believe this show. You still talk about that Akron show. So it was an interesting contrast in experiences on that first night of mine for TTV. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely covered a lot, and I definitely appreciate your time. feel like I
Yeah.
should let you get back to your regularly scheduled life, especially 3 hours ahead that you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks, Adam. I appreciate it. This is a great podcast, man.
Yes, thank you. Oh, I definitely appreciate all the support. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover or talk about? I feel like I had a million thoughts about the band that were running through my head. So if there's anything else that you want to mention.
No, I mean, just, they're well worthy of a podcast. I mean, they have a unique power to move people, emotionally and like, literally physically, and just like, the thing I've noticed in every show that I've been to is like everyone walking out with huge smiles on their face and just like feeling like, you know, I got more than my money's worth. Like that is always the case. And I always feel that way too. I never walked out of there thinking that. I've always thought to myself, they brought me something new. They brought me to a new place. They exposed me to a new kind of song, or structure of a song that I never thought. That Fire and Rain thing that we were talking about with James Taylor was like, like I couldn't believe it. I mean, I just was like, I can't believe I'm hearing this song and everybody's talking. Obviously, that song I just love the way that their takes on everything, and the purity. Like I always look for this in like politicians, is authenticity. And there's not a more authentic band than TTB, top to bottom. They're pure, they're in it for the right reasons. And I just hope we see them soon.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's good stuff. I would advise you never to look for authenticity in politicians, though. And with that said, again, thank you for your time and support. Is there anything else that you wanted to plug or promote or
No,
mention? You're good
no,
to go. You're just a
I'm
hardcore
good.
fan.
Yeah, just a
Head
hardcore
out.
fan. Yeah.
I got you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Adam. Bye-bye.
You got to take care. So there you go. My conversation with Ted Auch. I really appreciate Ted taking the time and for telling me all about how much Tedeschi Trucks Band and the music means to him. And that's great that he and his kids are able to play music and sing together. The kids are definitely going to have a great time at their first TTB show whenever that finally happens. Anyway, hope everyone out there is hanging in there. For now, check out Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. That's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. And of course, remember to tap subscribe or follow on iTunes, Spotify, or via whichever way you listen to this show. Again, positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated. But that's about all I got for today. And again, thanks for listening. Later.